Woo! Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning.
After two straight Spurs nights, the alarm was a little painful this morning. Thank God for coffee. Clint Proctor, dude, that is ambitious. Congratulations. 4-mile run before 6 a.m. Dude, I started my year exercising, eating right. I lost how much? I lost like 11 pounds from January 1st until the snowstorm. And the snowstorm, I started eating, because we were locked in. I started eating badly. I started drinking too much, and my exercise went south. So I need to April 1st. There you go. Or the full moon is on Sunday, something like that. Yeah, I know, Clint. I got to get it going, man. John Williams, Coach A, Paul Alexander will be here at in less than an hour, 7:06. Steve Duraco with another fire pop post. How dare you, sir? Read the sign, Steve Duraco. In pop we trust. There you go. Foam Foot 420 already looking at the poll question. Very nice. Luisa Alanis, welcome in. I do believe the music is starting. I could probably use some headphones. Oh. Woo! Now, Chris Duel. You made it. We made it. Shannon made it. Dave Ayler made it. The world made it to Friday. The weekend is here. Lots of sports going on television and in South and Central Texas, sports that you can go to, in fact, such as the women's NCAA tournament, such as match play in Austin. That's where Shannon Salty Sweeney was yesterday. Shannon, what is happening?
Oh, it's happening out at ACC, but with a lot less people. Not as great for people watching this year as it has been in years past, but still a lot of fun. Great weather. Yesterday should be great weather again today and throughout the weekend. So if anyone has a ticket and can make it out there, I suggest it. Still a lot of fun.
Now, you say a lot less people, obviously, by mandate, correct? So there's...
Yeah, I think I heard there's only like 7,500 people a day compared to, I think, the 50,000.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and
there's no grandstands to head off to sit in, to just take in a whole lot of walking. If you've ever been to ACC and you make your way down to the lake for the money shot of the Pennybacker Bridge, you have quite the hike back up to the front nine, as well as the kind of the main dining area, because hard to find food if you're a guest out there this go around. I lucked out, had some media food. They were still serving breakfast tacos when I got there yesterday.
Ooh,
so
you had me at breakfast tacos.
Breakfast tacos outside while watching Mr. Justin Thomas warm up just before I headed over to the first tee to watch Jordan Spieth start his day with my sleeper of the PGA, Mr. Matthew Wolff. So
Matthew Wolff.
In the short time I was there yesterday, I was excited.
Very, very good. Going back today?
I don't know, because again, like, part of the fun in that is not only obviously taking in the golf, but following a group or sitting and watching groups come through, so you can kind of see everybody, and then the people watching in between There's just really not space to do that this go around. So I kind of feel like I took it all in yesterday. We'll see. I've got my pass is good for the whole weekend, so we'll see. But what was a good time yesterday? Did run into a couple media friends, which was nice because otherwise I was alone. That's the other thing too. Those are much more enjoyable when you have a group of people to kind of go around with. Because other than that, you're just kind of sitting there by yourself.
Well, I'm glad you ran into some peeps.
Yeah,
That's always a good
enjoyed
thing.
The back end of lunch together and chatted away. Everyone, for the most part, was adhering to the mask guidelines. I know people are like, "It's outside," but the rules are the rules, and it says if you're not eating or drinking, please wear a mask. Of course, everyone's carrying around some sort of adult beverage, so by that, they're like, "Well, the second somebody starts to tell me to pull my mask up, I will just take a sip of my drink."
Ah,
It's cheating.
that's the way around it.
But I felt safe. That event, it's a great event. ACC does a great job. I used to hold a big grudge against that golf course in that area of town just because I was sent to Cotillion there in 4th grade and hated it so very much that and it was not until Dell Match Play came to town that I learned to appreciate Austin Country Club and it's all of its beauty. All of it is great. It's a great event. PGA does it, and everyone in town who's there and working it does a fantastic job. Everyone who was working there yesterday who helped me through everything, my first go round as a media member rather than just a guest, all very helpful, all very nice. So again, if you have the ability to get out there, I highly suggest it.
So what struck me from that, you held a grudge since 4th grade because you were forced to go to Cotillion at the Austin Country Club. So therefore, you held that grudge into adulthood until just recently.
Until a couple years ago.
Wow.
I was like, oh, the tournament's at that place? Well, I don't know if I'm going to go.
But see, grudges go away. Grudges go away. So there's hope for me and Kawhi.
It can happen.
Yeah.
That's my second grudge. I had LeBron for the longest time with not wanting him to win, and then I had ACC.
Man, I am amazed at the disdain people have for LeBron James. It amazes me.
And it's coming out a lot right now.
Yeah.
He may be out 4 to 6 weeks now. People are like, see, you should have been doing load management. Yet, damned if you do, damned if you don't. He does load management. People are upset that he's not playing. Well, I turn on my TV to watch you. I showed up to this game to watch you. Why are you playing? And then the other half of people are, he's overextending himself. He needs to be ready. He's getting older. He's 36. He needs to be fully ready to go come playoff time. You're turning into Kobe. This is just like Kobe's Achilles injury. Down the stretch, he was doing too much, trying to be the guy in every which way. Then he gets hurt. Now LeBron's out with a high ankle sprain 4 to 6 weeks.
We'll see. We'll see what happens come playoff time. Somebody pointed out that, if the Utah Jazz get the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, or whoever does, or whoever gets number 2, and your gift might be facing the Lakers and a then healthy LeBron James and Anthony Davis at that point. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Introducing him before 6:25, which I strive to do, and I'm a little surprised, and you will probably see him on Facebook Live. There he is. But the way the camera is angled, you cannot fully appreciate soundscape stylist Dave Ayler's Slayer, Lamb of God, Anthrax, Testament, and Behemoth. My God.
I haven't heard of any of those.
You haven't heard of Slayer?
No.
This was
Anthrax?
This was their final tour that when I saw them up in Austin in 2018.
Anthrax is what people put in the mail, right?
Anthrax is a disease, yes. And they even put out an album called Spreading the Disease.
Nice. That's quite. So all those bands were on the same tour?
Yeah.
And what year was this T-shirt?
2018, I believe.
My goodness.
That was Slayer's final tour because they've kind of went their separate ways now.
Now, I don't take you for a headbanger. That's kind of, I of all the T-shirts, if you would have said, Dave Ayler's coming in with a band T-shirt today, predict it, Slayer would have been about a number 114 on my list.
Were you expecting me to wear like a Bieber shirt or something?
Well, that would be Shannon
Oh yeah, okay, that's more like it. But
after her Timberlake shirt.
But I've seen Slayer 7 times.
My God.
Yeah, that's yeah. I've seen Lamb of God twice. That was my second time.
Well, and that's good for our religious listeners. Lamb of God, very.
If they were a religious band, but they're no,
so
they're
so
not.
Pastor Hagee won't. Lamb of God won't be opening up for Pastor Hagee.
No, that it wouldn't go over big there. And Anthrax, I've seen probably about five or six times.
Wow.
Behemoth, I've seen twice. Testament, I've seen 4 times. I think 4 or 5.
7 is 7. I'm trying. When you say you've seen Slayer 7 times, I'm racking my brain. Who have I seen the most? What act have I seen the most? I think I've seen Billy Joel like 5 times. I Dan Fogelberg. I saw him about 5 times. I've seen Sting and or the Police. I've probably seen Sting and or the Police maybe 6, probably more than any other artist. Is 7 the record for you?
I think so. I've seen Metallica 6. I think they're the closest. So I think, and I won't be seeing Slayer anymore since they're not touring anymore. But so I think 7's the record. I saw them when they were still playing little clubs.
That's so cool. It's cool when you've
94 or something like that.
Yeah, it's cool when you've kind of grown or watched that band grow. Shannon, what act, band, or artist have you seen more than anyone else? And do you know the ballpark number of times you've seen that act?
I've seen Justin Timberlake a total of 10 times. Once
My God!
9 times as a solo artist, and I went to his last tour 5 times.
Double digits on Timberlake.
That's like he's like my one and only.
That is. Oh, and I got one more that just hit me who I've seen probably 5 or 6, and I don't care. Mock me if you will, Shannon, Dave, Barry Manilow.
Oh yeah,
I love Barry Manilow. I'm sorry, he's uncool to people. He's sappy. I'm sorry, I love him.
Is he Vegas?
Now he's in Vegas. He's doing a residency now in Vegas. Yeah, which makes total sense. He's a perfect Vegas act. So now people will come to him. He's like 75 by now. So
I know some people consider Vegas as like almost like retirement, but it's such a big thing now with I guess modern era stars too.
Yeah.
Aerosmith
Because
was
you get
there.
to
Did a residency there.
create
Leppard
these
did a
shows.
Residency there.
I mean, the shows you can create there are limitless because you don't have to travel and move with them.
Yeah. And speaking of Vegas, and I don't even gamble. We would go as a Beatles freak. And I'm late for the contest. We're doing a contest here after this. As a Beatles freak, there's a Beatles Cirque du Soleil show with all reimagined Beatles music that was done approved by the living Beatles and Yoko and Olivia Harrison and Giles Martin, the son of the producer of and it's mind blowing and it's theater in the round. So I think we've gone back like 5 times to see that. It's theater in the round. So every time you sit in a different location, there's a million things going on in the sky, on the stage in front of you. There are lighting effects. So you see something different every time you see the show. So that's not it's not a real band because it's just their music and it's Cirque du Soleil, but it's cool. So there's my big Vegas attraction. Here's your big attraction, a chance to win $1,400. It is the Double Your Stimulus contest, which for me would be just, I don't have my check. I got to call that hotline. Where's my check? Here's your check. It's the Double Your Stimulus contest right now.
Your chance to win $1,400 right now. Text the nationwide keyword bonus to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's bonus to 200-200.
Good luck. Bonus is the keyword. Now, James Pellman, I'm looking at the peeps on Facebook Live. And if you're new to the show, we stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook Live pages. We put up links on the Twitter pages. There's also a YouTube way to view the show and participate. James Pellman has seen REM 6 times. That's cool. I love REM. John Williams says Donnie and Marie had the longest residency in Las Vegas. Cool. Ooh, Eddie Bermea saw Iron Maiden 10 times. We got another double digit. And Eddie Bermea saw Bush 8 times. Big fan of the former president, George
A band?
George W. Bush. John Arne Paulson joining us from Norway. Good morning. Jason Garcia says, watching the Spurs is like watching a piñata being beaten on your birthday party while you're being quarantined inside. Ouch. Yes, Shannon. Spurs lose again last night, a game. They led at halftime. The Clippers were just begging them to take that win last night. Kawhi Leonard took the night off. Marcus Morris took the night off. Lou Williams was traded. The three guys.
Worse.
Say that again.
Does that make it worse? All those guys.
Yes.
Not in it, and they still can't pull it off. Because I was watching on my phone, the feed, and seeing how close it was. But the Spurs were leading for a majority of that game until they weren't.
Spurs scored 13 points in the third quarter after leading at halftime.
Is that not good?
That's the lowest amount of the season. That's not good. But in the fourth quarter, they scored 17 points, did the Spurs.
Yeah.
So, 4 in a row. It is time to get a little concerned. The good news is on this 9-game road trip, the 2 toughest games were going to be the Clipper games. You shouldn't have lost to Charlotte. That homestand. Did I say road? Homestand. It's a 9-game homestand. Thank you. So your 2 toughest games were Clippers. I was hoping for a split there. They had a shot last night had they not collapsed in the third quarter and the second half for the split. Didn't get it. They're 0-3 on the 9-game homestand, but I think it's Chicago Saturday night and then 2 against Sacramento. They're all very beatable. Cleveland's coming in, but the time is now for the Spurs. They are dropping like a rock in the Western Conference standings, while Shannon, your Dallas Mavericks are ascending. So a worst little patch of the year so far for the Spurs.
I don't believe in ghosts or like chakras or evil spirits or anything like that.
I believe in all of those.
I think on the next road trip, they've got to get someone in the AT&T Center to cleanse something out. Because there's something wrong when you're having this big of a struggle at home. Fans or no fans, that comfort level should be there.
Agree. And it is so weird in a year. And granted, the bulk of this record on the road and at home was with no fans due to COVID. But in a year that you're going 12-7 on the road, to go 10-13 at home now, sub 500 at 10-13 at home. I agree. We need to get some curanderas in there. We need some kind of a mojo cleansing. So
someone says call Sister Jean to cleanse. She's busy.
Yeah.
She's driving the bus that's on the way to the Final Four. She's got other things going on.
And the way this NCAA tournament is playing out, I don't count out Loyola of Chicago or anybody. I mean, Oral Roberts is still alive, so I think anything's possible. Tracy Bogert says he saw Robert Earl Keen 10 times plus. Metallica 6, Judas Priest 5 times. See, Judas Priest should tour with Lamb of God, and Pastor John Hagee of Cornerstone Church could kind of be the opener. We'll do a little preaching. What do you say?
That would be very interesting.
Pastor Hagee, I'd like to introduce to you Lamb of God. Maybe not. Maybe not a good idea. All right, quick break. We got a great show for you on this Friday. Get you ready for the weekend. In the next segment, we will tell you the poll question. You can go find it on Twitter at Ticket760 and at AM 1300 The Zone right now, and you can vote. But we'll tell you what it is coming up in the next segment. Couple of really outstanding guests. 7:06, Coach A, Paul Alexander, on all things football, all things sports, and all things life. Coming up at 8:06, our good friend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, James Allen. Got a feeling Deshaun Watson's name might come up this morning as that debacle continues to play itself out.
Never heard of him.
Cranking the tunes, Dave Ayler, the dude with the Slayer shirt, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, Rocking the free world from Austin. I'm Chris Duel in San Antonio. ASA, baby. Austin, San Antonio. All is one. Don't go anywhere. We're with you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. There you go, Jason. You're right. Spurs Jesus and the Spurs nuns should be intervening. Good point. Chevelle 5 times. Yolanda, I don't know Chevelle.
Hey,
And
Dave,
Yolanda,
Jay
Bush the
Tuesday.
Rock Band 8 times. So who else said Bush up here? Well, Yolanda and Eddie with the same last name. I got a feeling maybe you went to the same Bush concerts a few times.
Yeah.
All righty. I'm getting more coffee. God knows I need it after back-to-back Spurs nights.
Oh, no. If you can't find it, that's okay. Okay, so if I call for it, you got it. Okay, perfect. If you nah.
Morning, everyone. Tracy heading out to a concert tomorrow for the first time since 2020. Who's the last person you saw? Jason, Jeremy's still around. He's just not with us today. He kicks it with us a couple times a week. Jackie Vincent. Y'all are just throwing out names now. I don't even believe these are real bands and people.
Hector Gomez, good morning. Luisa Alanis. Hunter Hitch on Twitter says Metallica 9 times. Cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. Eddie Bermea. Yeah. Dave Ayler's going to play some Iron Maiden coming back, Eddie, just for you. Laura Burris, good morning. Depeche Mode, 03, Key Arena, Seattle. Nice. Tracy, that's very cool that Sam's Burger Joint sold out for Jackie Venson. That's cool. Yeah, I got Jason says, what happened to Foxy Grandpa? I think John asked that as well. It's kind of the rotation. I don't do the Soundscape stylist list, but Dave is kind of, I think, more of a full-time dude here in the building. So we love them both. Yeah, Tracy, your daughter's first band does not count. She's your daughter. You're her dad. You should have seen them play 8 times. You should have seen them play 18 times. Come on, Tracy. See, you were out at those MAGA rallies. So you had to miss your daughter's band. And your late night QAnon meetings. Colorado Dave has seen Soundgarden 6 times. Very nice. I'm thinking it's between Sting and Barry Manilow for me. Billy Joel's up there with about 4. Fogelberg, 5 or 6. I saw Fogelberg in Colorado. I saw Fogelberg in Los Angeles. Saw Fogelberg in Austin at Bee Caves, which I now believe was at the Backyard, but it was so long ago. I saw Fogelberg in San Antonio. That's 4. And then I saw him multiple a couple times, I would imagine. I once saw a double bill at the Verizon Wireless Amphitheater. It was Sting and Annie Lennox. And I'm a huge Sting and Police fan. And we had great seats for whatever the reason. We were like 4 rows back from the stage. And that night, Annie Lennox just rocked. Annie Lennox. I went there for Sting, but I walked away and I've always liked Annie Lennox and the Eurythmics. But I walked away just my mind blown by the performance of Annie Lennox. She was so darn good. Neil Diamond 3 times. I heard a Neil Diamond tune on satellite radio, Hector, this week, and I hadn't heard Neil Diamond in a long time. Forgot how good he was, how great he was. And it wasn't Sweet Caroline either. Forgot what I heard. What? Holly Holy? Yes! I may have to bang my head against the microphone. Management may frown upon that. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. Little Iron Maiden, Dave. What inspired you to lay down some Iron Maiden at 6:38, 6:39 in the morning?
I saw Eddie on Facebook say he'd seen him 10 times. I've seen him 3 times. And it's one of the few bands that they've actually gotten better as they've aged.
Nice.
They're just as good now. I saw them back in like 1990. And then I saw them the last 2 times they've been to San Antonio. And Bruce Dickinson still has his voice, still put on a great show, still play this song, 2 Minutes to Midnight from the Power Slave album.
Sweet. Yeah, those bands that have been around forever that can continue to do it at a high level. And I mean, my God, the Rolling Stones just keep on keeping on until they die.
Keith Richards is never going to die.
I know. If he does, the day he does, that will be a sad day. I got a feeling he should outlive all of us. That's the expectation.
I think he has.
Keith Richards. Wow. Chris Duel Show. Shannon Salty Sweeney. That guy is Dave Ayler making the show go. Welcome in. We do have a poll question. One of the big events of the weekend, obviously, the NCAA tournament, men's and women's. The poll question pretty much focusing on the men's tournament, although you could even, as you answer, you could factor in the women, and perhaps you should. Probably you should. Shannon, what might be our poll question this morning?
Asking today how many March Madness games you will watch this weekend. Our options: all of them, most of them, some of them, or none of them. Of course, you probably need that multi TV setup if you're going to be watching all of them, because the men's and women's tournaments going on at the same time this weekend. So no one has voted all of them yet. Probably could be because most people don't have a multi TV setup within their homes. For those that do, I envy you. Most people saying some or one of them, followed by most of them, and then none of them. So head over there to Twitter and vote. I also posted a question, since it's just become kind of taken over the show now. How many times have you seen a band, artist, or act? And you can comment below, because this has turned into quite the interesting conversation. But as for March Madness, this doesn't surprise me so far that a lot of people are saying some of them, because I think so many people can watch based on their brackets.
Yeah.
How crazy everything has been, the true madness. I think a lot of people no longer have skin in the game.
Yeah, I think it's brackets and your team. And so many people love the Longhorns. It's like my team, my school, USC, plays on Saturday night. So my bracket was destroyed quickly. And the team I had winning the championship on my bracket, Illinois, got bounced by Sister Jean and Loyola Chicago. But there's still, a reason for me to watch. I will watch probably parts of all of them the way I do. I look at my phone, or I'll be watching one game and I'll be online and go, all right, that's this score. What's happening in the Baylor game or whatever. So I kind of bounce around. So I don't really, the USC, as long as they stay alive, they take on Oregon tomorrow night in the Sweet 16. As long as they stay alive, I'll watch all of those games. But for me, I kind of dip in and dip out. And then if it's second half and it's a tight game and there's 3 minutes remaining, then I put down the remote control and I'm in for the excitement and the big finish.
I'm looking forward to Sunday's game, number 5 Creighton taking on Gonzaga. This is my huge upset game because I have Creighton in the final against Baylor, so I will be paying very close attention to this one.
Yeah, I confused my Saturday, Sunday with my Friday, Saturday. So actually, USC is the last game on Sunday,
Right.
and the games begin on Saturday.
You're gonna have to do some flipping because the Texas women play Sunday at 8:00 against Maryland. So you
Whoa.
can catch the first half for sure before this Oregon USC game. And
Cool.
you know how things work. We always say it, like 8:45 start really means 9:00.
Which kind of, why can't they, after all these years and with television and technology and planning,
Better.
why can't they nail it? I don't, and I get it because there's games in those buildings in front of them. So that's why NBA games have a slide if there's a doubleheader. So because like TV is doing one game and there's a TNT or an ESPN doubleheader. So that happens a lot on Spurs broadcasts. We'll be ready to go and Bill Schoening will be ready to go and we'll know that tip-off is going to be at 7:40 and they'll go, nope, there's a slide because the first game's going along and this is a national TV game. So there'll be the league will tell you there's a 7-minute slide. So we're not tipping off at 7:40. We're tipping off at 7:47, at which time Bill Schoening and I begin to tap dance on the radio and talk about God knows what. Speaking of Spurs, I do want to mention this and sad news. We talked about this earlier in the week because we had received word that longtime he wasn't a longtime Spurs coach, but he's been around for a long time, and he planted his roots in San Antonio. Stan Albeck, who coached the Spurs from 1980 to 1983, did pass away yesterday. His son, John, was by his side. His wife, Phyllis, had passed away a few years ago. But Stan Albeck was 89. By all accounts, had an amazing career. An assistant to Wilt Chamberlain in the ABA with the San Diego Conquistadors, a Laker assistant, head coach himself at multiple teams around the leagues, part of the ABA championship with the Kentucky Colonels in 1975. He was an assistant to Hubie Brown. On that team, Bird Averett, who was an original San Antonio Spur on that Kentucky Colonels championship team in 75. Two future Spurs, Artis Gilmore and Louis Dampier, were on that team. A lot of ties. I went and watched a little mini documentary yesterday on the Kentucky Colonels, which was kind of fun. And Shannon, for people who are Michael Jordan fans and watched the Michael Jordan 10-part documentary, The Last Dance, when Michael Jordan early in his career had that minutes restriction. Stan Albeck was the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, and he defied the Michael Jordan minutes restriction because Michael said, I want to go in, I want to play. And Stan Albeck said, go in. And Bulls management did not look kindly on that, and they eventually let Stan Albeck go. But Stan Albeck yesterday passed away at the age of 89. The Spurs, before the game last night, observed a moment of silence in his memory. And before the game yesterday, Coach Greg Popovich had some comments about Stan Albeck, who, and to Pop's credit and to this organization's credit, Stan Albeck was always welcomed in with open arms, as he should have been, but they did the right thing. And you got to give credit when people do the right thing. And Stan Albeck, who had a severe stroke, I think around the year 2001, and it partially paralyzed him. He had trouble speaking, but I saw Roy Flores post on Facebook overnight. We've had him on the show. He covers the Spurs for the Associated Press. He said he got to sit next to Stan Albeck for the last several years, and he said even though Stan suffered the effects of that stroke, he would sit courtside in his seat watching the Spurs just intently and very locked in on the game and cheering and a fan. So our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences go out to the family of Stan Albeck, which is led now by his son, John. And Shannon, just it's so weird for me. I was a kid when the Spurs came to town. I went to games, a lot of games, the first season they were in town in 1973. In fact, my friend Steve Duraco, who jumps in here a lot with us, we were too young to drive. He was 14, I was 13. So we had to ride the bus down to the Hemisphere Arena to see Spurs games. So to see so many of these Spurs and Spurs coaches like Bob Bass has passed away. Tom Nasulke, the original Spurs coach, has passed away. Now Stan Albeck. Some players like Mike Gale passed away last summer. It's just it's odd and it's sad when you saw these guys performing for your home team in the prime of their career and their life, to then see them age and to see them pass away. It's just kind of a somber thing for a longtime Spurs fan.
That is awful news, but it's do they do in memoriams like they do for award shows and things like that for the NBA, like at the end of the year?
They sure should. They sure should.
Because I forget the name of the actress Jessica Walter passed yesterday.
Yeah.
And everyone immediately you start seeing what they looked like when they were younger, and whether or not you were around at that time, you realize like, wow, time really does fly, and it has passed very quickly when you see what they looked like just 20 years ago, and now they're no longer with us.
Sure.
The NBA doesn't do that.
I think maybe. Well, the more I think about it, and I don't have a specific memory of this, but for the last couple years, now the NBA, this is relatively new. At the end of the year, they do a thing called the NBA Awards. It's kind of like the ESPYs. I'll bet you, and if they don't, they're out of their minds. But I have a feeling that they would do an in memoriam at that event. If they don't, for God's sake, they should. I mean, Elgin Baylor, one of the greatest old-time Hall of Famers, as we talked about earlier this week, passed away as well. So, for a league that's been around as long as the NBA has, I would imagine every year. My God, a year ago you had Kobe Bryant as well. You've got such incredible names and people who contributed to this game in such a big way. They certainly should be honored.
Yeah, because I know, like you said, there was a moment of silence with the Spurs. I'm sure there's probably a video out there somewhere of on him, but yeah, I think the NBA should add that to their award show if it's not already a part of it.
Totally agree. So, all right, coming up, Coach A, Paul Alexander. And Paul's had a crazy career. At one time, Paul Alexander was the TV play-by-play guy for the San Antonio Spurs, maybe even in the Stan Albeck era. I think a little later, we'll ask Paul. We talked as well up in Austin. He was the host of the Fred Akers show. There's another coach, in Longhorn history who passed away within the last year. But Paul Alexander, we love just talking all things sports with Paul. His primary love in sports is football, as it should be. But we touch all the bases with Paul. He's going to join us coming up at 7:06, and then an hour after that at 8:06, our good friend James Allen with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I got a feeling, Shannon, when we talk football with those guys, it's hard to talk NFL football right now without mentioning Deshaun Watson. I think we went through 24 hours without any more women coming out with allegations, or am I wrong? Did I miss any? I know you were on the golf course yesterday, but I think it was a relatively quiet day on the Deshaun Watson front.
I think you're right, because the top Deshaun headline I saw this morning were trade destinations. So now we're going to talk about trading Deshaun.
I went through yesterday. I had not done this yet because I kind of figured I knew what might have happened in these massage sessions allegedly to these women, but I went through. ESPN has a detailed account on their website of case by case what the allegations are, and when you read them, it's they're detailed. God, they're detailed, they're sickening. If my daughter or my sister or my wife was a massage therapist and a man, or Deshaun Watson did what he did, I'd want to go kill him. that any human being who walks in and a masseuse is kind of a healthcare professional. If you think about it, they're there to rehabilitate and help you. It makes your skin crawl. And again, as I'm saying this, Shannon, I want to be careful and I want to be mindful because we don't know for sure what happened or what did not happen. So until there is innocent until proven guilty in this country, but there sure are a lot of people making allegations, and the allegations seem to be consistent across the board, which is scary.
Mm-hmm. I did go to Google reviews as well as Yelp reviews this morning to check on his restaurant. Not the best reviews as far as food. I did not see any that mentioned any of these cases currently, but I do know that Google and Yelp tend to do a pretty good job of weeding those out when those kind of reviews come in. But for right now, there's nothing on there that says don't come here because this guy's a creep. So we'll see. One guy did mention about Deshaun wanting to leave, though, like the area this week.
And I think that's fair game. Yeah. If you got a restaurant, the restaurant owner wants to bolt.
That's relative.
Absolutely.
Your food review.
Yes. We got sports updates coming at you. We got Paul Alexander yapping with us, covering all of your sports, the Salty Shakedown in the next hour as well. We're with you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Hector, you bring up a great point, and it's true. Lots and lots of coaches and former players wind up staying and retiring in San Antonio. Armando Salinas remembers Stan Albeck was the Spurs coach when Armando moved here in '82. Very cool. Lucinda Sullivan, good morning. Tracy saw Iron Maiden's first show in San Antonio in 1981. Ralph Balderas, how are you? Ralph, it's good we're coming in clear, man.
Chris, did you see the Southwest pilot story?
No, I did not.
Another hot mic incident gone wrong.
Oh no! What was it?
Like landed. He's like heading to the Bay Area, and he's throwing out expletives about the place, and I can't even read anything because it's all expletive laced.
Wow.
But calling them weirdos, saying they all drive Hyundais, the roads are bad, they go slow.
My wife drives a Hyundai, bastard. Wow.
Oh, Southwest has some damage control to do today.
Yeah. And if you're Southwest, the guy thought he was having a private conversation in the cockpit. Granted, what he said is very offensive. I mean, what level of discipline do you give? I mean, obviously common sense, dude, you're a pilot, you're on the job, you're in the cockpit, but yeah, any mic could be an open mic. So maybe you suspend him for just bad judgment, but I don't know that you fire him for that.
Apparently the mic was stuck, so he didn't know it was on.
Oh my God.
But,
so he was just going
Southwest's whole thing is like inclusivity and not being the airline that overcharges, and it's great for everyone. So just optics wise,
it ain't good.
You can't have that guy be flying your plane.
Yeah. Oh my
I don't want to
God.
know that my pilot is disgruntled about where he's taking me.
Especially
His
if you
opinion
live
doesn't
there.
matter, but if he's distracted because he doesn't like
Yeah.
the place he's going to,
Yeah, and if you live there and you're returning home to San Francisco and he's talking about how crappy your city is. Hector Gomez once bought a car from Larry Keenan. How cool is that? Good morning, Beth Settle. I just got your text. Thank you very much. I just texted you back. looking at Paul Alexander's Facebook page to see what he's been talking about lately. He usually has some very strong opinions about sports and culture and life. Cool. Thank you, sir. Wes Perkins, good morning. Welcome in. Yeah, Wes, it's going to be real interesting, these final 6 games that should be winnable, but of the homestand, but they're 10-13 at home. So they have not, they need to win all 6 or 5 out of 6 to right this ship. Certainly 4 out of 6, but they've not shown yet that they can win 4 out of 6 at home. So we shall see. I do. Thank you very much. Good morning, Carl Fisher. Welcome in. It is Friday. It is the weekend. It is a big sports weekend. NCAA men's college basketball tournament, NCAA women's college basketball tournament right here in the area. Match play, Dell match play, golf in Austin. A big announcement regarding golf in San Antonio. Don Harris broke it last night. Jordan Spieth will play in the upcoming Texas Open. We'll certainly talk to Andy Everett about that on Monday. But your Friday just got better, not just because you're with us, and we're glad you're with us. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and Soundscape stylist Dave Ayler. But my weekend just got better. So did Shannon's and Dave's and yours, I do believe, because on the show right now, the guy we love talking football, sports, and life with, he is radically rational. He is the one and only Coach A, Paul Alexander. How you doing this morning?
Chris, Shannon, Dave, good to talk to you. Always look forward to it.
Well, and as I've been following you, not stalking you, but following you on Facebook, I noticed you, I think within the last day or two, made a trek to San Antonio. Are you in San Antonio right now?
In San Antonio right now, and this is a great occasion. Been able to hug kids and grandkids for the first time in 11 months. And that was great. And get to do it again today and again tomorrow. So life is good.
That's incredible, Dave. Is there a special occasion that brings you in town just for this?
Yeah, there is. I know Chris is familiar with this. My wife and I started a media company a little over a year ago, and it was something we were and remain very passionate about. And then the pandemic intervened, and don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not whining because it's been tragic in so many ways and it's affected and inconvenienced everybody. So this is not me seeing the whole world through my own lens. But it did suspend that for a while. But the depth of our passion and commitment is such that we're returning to that company. It is Radically Rational Media, LLC. And how cool is this? Because we're excited and we're moving back to San Antonio.
That is great news.
Go.
Yeah, that's great news for San Antonio and Austin, and because you're closer to Austin, and I got a feeling you'll be showing up there as well. Paul Alexander with us. And Paul, I was just thinking out loud. I mean, you've done so many things in broadcasting, television and radio. We've talked about it here in our conversations with you. You were host of the Fred Akers show up in Austin when you were covering the Longhorns. Among other things in San Antonio, you've done Spurs television. Those are just two of the gazillions of things you've done. But I was talking about, and sadly, Stan Albeck, the Spurs coach who established roots in San Antonio and has been a part of this community now for many, many years. He passed away yesterday at the age of 89. And I was just wondering, and I think Stan, as head coach of the Spurs from 80 to 83, I think he was before your time. I may be wrong when you were doing Spurs television, but did you ever cross his path? Because I know he then went on to coach around the NBA and back at his alma mater, Bradley. Any Stan Albeck connections with you?
Well, you're correct. When Coach Albeck was coach of the Spurs, I was in St. Louis at that time. But after moving to San Antonio, yeah, we had some casual encounters. They were always pleasant. And a lot of people that I respect so tremendously spoke so highly of him, and I'm aware of his impact on the Spurs history and the history of San Antonio sports. And when I saw yesterday that he had passed, it was a very, very sad, kind of knee-buckling moment for him.
Well, Paul, as you prep for the move back to San Antonio, I'm sure you're getting even more into the Spurs, but what's your thoughts on their current homestand and how things are going with their play at home versus on the road? Something's got to change here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get deeper into this for sure, especially now that we're moving back to San Antonio. But just as kind of a casual observer through the season thus far, I mean, certainly I've been impressed with the effort level. And they've shown to be competitive against a lot of good teams. So I'm looking forward to getting deeper and deeper into that. And I just think it's great that San Antonio's level of passion is what it is. And obviously the team, the franchise is going through a transition period here. And as Spurs fans, we've been so spoiled for so long. I guess particularly at this point in my life as a sports fan, because more than anything else, I'm a sports fan, really all I want from a team that I root for and that I support is essentially play your ass off every night. Okay, do that and we're good. And I do think that for the most part, the Spurs have reflected that this year. And again, this transition is a tough thing for everybody. And not just everybody can handle it. But I have so much respect for Greg Popovich, not only as a historic Seminole coach, but just as a radically rational human being. If anybody can get the franchise through those straits safely at this time, he would be the guy for that. I think there's some encouraging things in the franchise's future. And just kind of talking about basketball in general, which would include both the men's and the women's tournament, as a basketball fan, I really like the current evolution of the sport. I like the positionless way of playing right right now. That everybody can run, everybody can shoot, everybody can handle the ball. And that's just a whole lot more interesting to me than this very structured 1 through 5 thing that we've seen for decades.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you, Paul, but the only thing for me in the NBA that it's really turned into a 3-point shooting game, and who shoots the better 3-ball typically is going to win the game. Each team's going to take 30, 40 3-point shots, it seems. And you've got, and it's almost as if when Steph Curry started raining 3-point shots in the NBA, other teams and other players took note and they began to do it. I'm just wondering, do you think on the NBA level, should the 3-point shot maybe be extended? Should they move it out a little bit? Is it maybe too close in now for NBA players?
You have touched on something that's just so fascinating to me, and it reflects on both basketball and football, and I'll try to explain my warped thinking to you. There would be a very logical school of thought that would say, no, we got this whole thing backwards. If you want to award an extra point for a certain basket, it should be for a layup, right? The whole point of offensive to get the highest percentage shot you can possibly get, and that would be a layup or a dunk. You go, okay, so what's the football application? All right, I hear people say all the time, well, the longer the field goal, the more points you should get. No, that's completely backwards. Completely backwards. Football is a game of yardage and territorial acquisition, and the more territory you acquire, the more successful you have been. No, a point-blank field goal should be worth more than a 60 because it means you acquired more territory. And there's nothing illogical about what I just said with respect to either sport.
I like it. It makes sense. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul. You told us last week you did not fill out a bracket for March Madness.
Correct.
Okay, so what's been the best thing you've seen so far in a team that you're rooting for this weekend?
The whole Loyola Chicago thing just makes me laugh.
Sister Jean.
It makes me laugh because it's Sister Jean and the way they took people down. And by the way, they're not fluky; they're beating people. And I don't mean this as any kind of insult, and I can't recall the big fellow's name here, but the porn star looking guy for them, with the left hand, that dude's fun to watch. I'm having a good time with that. I realize this is the Chris Duel show, so I have to absolutely genuflect to the USC Trojans. I've got some interest in the Houston Cougars, for example, so it's fun, and I am enjoying it.
Very cool. Paul Alexander talking all kinds of sports with us. Paul, as we move into a little bit of football talk with you, which we love to do, and we will get to the Dallas Cowboys, but my God, since we spoke with you a week ago, more women have come out and alleged that Deshaun Watson did inappropriate, downright illegal, and sexual things in these massage sessions. And I've been talking with Shannon about this. If one of these is true, and certainly if multiple occasions of these are true, unlike, and I know the Cowboys signed Greg Hardy, and a lot of people said, no, that's a bad dude. He did an awful thing. Don't do that. But they did because they thought he could perform at a high level and contribute to the team. But to me, Paul, quarterback is a uniquely different position in any sport, and certainly in the National Football League, because you are the face of the franchise and you are pretty much, at least offensively, the leader in the locker room, if not for the whole team. If you get to be a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady, you're the leader in the locker room. If any of this is proven, Paul, I'm wondering if Deshaun Watson, even if he's free to play, ever comes back from. I'm wondering if a general manager says, yeah, we want that guy to be our quarterback. And if you do that, what reaction is the fan base going to have? What are your thoughts on how this Deshaun Watson situation could play out if any of these allegations are proven to be credible?
Chris, you just touched on all of it. I mean, this is an absolute mess. And you talk about an elite quarterback being the face of the franchise. Until the relationship went sour with the Texans, and especially prior to the time that we've had 16 lawsuits filed, there was nobody in the NFL that had a shinier image and was connected with a franchise more than Deshaun Watson. And I think this analogy is great. I can't take credit for it. It was posted by our mutual friend, Sig Christensen, the fine military writer for the Express News and a huge Houston Texans fan. And he posted in social media about 4 or 5 days ago that the analogy here is Bill Cosby. And I went, man, that's absolutely profound, because you talk about a precipitous fall from grace. You've gone from this absolutely knight in shining armor image to something that is potentially really ugly here. And the one thing we do know, and I realize there's this argument that where there's that much smoke, there has to be fire, maybe something. I don't know. And I don't want to jump to conclusions. The one thing we know for sure is that he's doing something stupid. And stupid is putting yourself and your franchise at risk. And it's the very thing you were just referring to. You were the face of the franchise. So, these various lawsuits, it's pretty tawdry. I've kind of put a clothespin on my nose. But, they range from sexual harassment to actual sexual assault. And, Chris, I think your question is a very good one. I just don't know, really regardless of how these suits are disposed of ultimately, if he can ever return to that level. And if you look at it just from a football standpoint, and of course there are larger questions here, but not only is Deshaun Watson now in a heap of hurt, the Houston Texans are in an incredible heap of hurt, because there's all this pressure to trade him anyway, because Deshaun has said he's never taken another snap for the Texans. All right, but if you were going to do that, if you're going to entertain that, you've got to get back an absolute king's ransom and then some. All right, you got some pretty smart GMs in the National Football League. Not that you have to be brilliant to see this. Okay, you would think that the Texans had the advantage in any potential transactions. That's not the case here. They know you've got damaged goods. They know you got problems with your fans. They know that he doesn't. Okay, so the point is, you may not get that Brinks truck haul that you thought you were going to get, because now it is very much a buyer's market there. So it's disastrous. I don't really know the new head coach of the Texans. I do know that he has a wonderful reputation. And, speaking of reputation, Deshaun Watson had a wonderful reputation. But my point is, he just could not be in a worse position right now. You're a first-time ever NFL head coach, and you're looking at this. Lots of luck, buddy.
It's almost like Steven Silas getting stuck with the Houston Rockets and then going on a 20-game losing streak. Now we talk about Deshaun, and obviously the NFL has now put their hand into this and investigating this as well. And we saw a couple years ago when they investigated Zeke for just the one incident, although Zeke was acquitted on that criminal-like investigation, the NFL still suspended him for 6 games. So are you seeing, even if all of these, of the 16 so far, accusations are completely bogus, that Deshaun still gets penalized? You'd think it'd be more than a 6-game suspension, just comparing him to Zeke, right?
I absolutely agree. And I think that's a salient point right now, Shannon, for sure. There's 2 different levels going on here. There's what happens in the justice system. There's what happens with respect to civil suits, et cetera. And then there's what happens with respect to the NFL. And you can say whatever you want about the Jolly Roger, but the Jolly Roger don't play. And the Jolly Roger don't like this, and he is going to sit him down, period. And by the way, all these teams that may be interested in trading for him know that.
Yeah, just another level of damaged goods, as you put it, Paul, regarding Deshaun Watson and his value to the Texans and other teams around the league. Paul, we can't have you on and not talk some Dallas Cowboys. We've seen some moves from the Cowboys within the past week, and a couple of them have been Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, bringing over some of his former defensive players with the Atlanta Falcons. And we had one of our friends and regular guests, Tanner Carlson, made the point this week to us. One of the big problems with Atlanta a year ago was their defense, and now we're bringing some of their defensive players over to the Cowboys. How do you feel about the Cowboys? Obviously, they signed Dak Prescott. Mike McCarthy had a press conference yesterday, said Dak is the cornerstone, the keystone of this Dallas Cowboys franchise. I think we all believe they're going to be okay if that offensive line is healthy offensively, but it was the defense that was historically god-awful a year ago. How do you feel about the Cowboys' chances to kind of right the ship defensively with Dan Quinn?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing a face palm on that because I see the same problems here, or at least the same issues or questions. For whatever reason, I'm kind of pulling. Actually, I'm really pulling for Dan Quinn. You know, I think a lot of unfortunate things happened to him in Atlanta. Not that he wasn't responsible for some of them. He is accountable. But he has historically been a really good defensive coordinator in the NFL. And it kind of gets back to my point that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that all the new head coaching hires always, let's hire the hottest coordinator. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the job descriptions aren't the same. And the skill set that you have to have, even to be a top-flight elite coordinator on either side of the ball, that's not your job as a head coach. And those skills are not necessarily transferable. You know, and Quinn was right there on the precipice, and he got that enormous lead over the Patriots at the Super Bowl. Life's looking good. And you see your entire career just kind of go away in the last quarter of that game and into overtime. So Quinn, I think, is a really skillful defensive coordinator. I understand the concern. If you watched a lot of NFL football last year, and we all do, I think the two defenses that just made you flinch and just turn away and blanch every time you saw them was the Cowboy defense and the Falcon defense. So I get that. On the other hand, if these are people that he has confidence in, Chris, if they can just get lined up correctly, and I'm not, I mean, in some cases, they were so outflanked, they had no chance to succeed because they couldn't line up in the right place. And then you take that along with some secondary people who looked like they were playing flag and touch football. And that thing was a train wreck. So maybe just playing actual boys tackle football would make things better.
He is Coach A, Paul Alexander. He is a great follow. You go follow him on Facebook, and you get a lot of opinion and philosophy on sports, on life, on politics and culture. And Paul, I want to ask you, you know, as we move forward in the coming weeks, I know you're in transition, moving to San Antonio, and although it has launched, you're really going to launch in a big way even further. Your podcast, your company, Radically Rational. Just an update, and if people are interested in learning more about the podcast and the movement, Radically Rational, how do they go find it?
Appreciate the question very much. Radically Rational has a Facebook page, and I try really hard to at least post a short video on there every day about something that relates to folks either being radically rational or being radically irrational for sure. And also, we have a lot of videos posted on YouTube, and we're really humbly grateful for that. But the amount of visibility and the number of views that we've had on those have been staggering. And that was one of the reasons we were so encouraged by this when we started the project a year ago. And also, in very short order, my number one priority right now is that we're going to get just an absolute whiz-bang, cutting-edge website, a multimedia website going. And that will happen just as soon as we can make it happen. But it'll have a little bit of everything, including, I hope, at least the occasional, if not the regular, if not the daily, blog post from one Chris Duel.
Paul, I would love to be a part of it on any level. I have yeah, you've been a friend, and I was a huge fan before I ever met you because you've been such a fixture on the sports and news media landscape. But yeah, I love what you do and what you've been doing on Facebook, and just it is in a time that is the post-truth era where people just decide to believe whatever reality, like Kyrie Irving, that the earth is flat. I think we need more truth tellers, and you're certainly one of those truth tellers out there that I think people need to listen to. So absolutely, let's have a few ice cold beers and talk about it. Paul Alexander, outstanding as always, sir. Let's do it again next week, and have yourself a great sports weekend.
Chris, Shannon, Dave, thank you so much. I always look forward to it, and it's so great to be back in San Antonio.
Great to have you back, Paul. Thanks so much. As we roll forward, the Salty Shakedown is coming your way in just a few moments. What happened on this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and a whole lot more. We're with you till 9. James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame joining us at 8:06. You're listening to The Chris Duel Show. All right, more coffee. For the love of God. Anthony Del Toro, good morning. Luisa Alanis, Carl Fisher. If I don't see your name at the moment, welcome in. If I see your name, we'll say hi to you. It's the least we can do. Where's my my coffee's outside. All right. Mask. All right. Gotta check something here. Let's see. Yes, sir. Was that by request or is that you? Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's see. Here we come. Woo! The man who brought sexy back. The man Shannon Salty Sweeney has seen 10 times in concert.
Still not
Wow.
enough.
Still not enough.
Still not enough.
Justin Timberlake. And that was kind of cool. We kind of stumbled into the question. Dave Naylor started it. He's wearing a Slayer t-shirt. And he revealed that he'd seen Slayer, I think, 7 times, Dave. Is that right?
7 times, yes.
So then it made me think, all right, who have I seen the most in concert? And I think it's like Sting, Barry Manilow, or Dan Fogelberg. That tells you a lot about me. But for Shannon Salty Sweeney, and those were like 6 or 7 times. Shannon, double digits, 10 times seeing Justin Timberlake. And you will see him again, I imagine, correct?
I certainly hope so that once this pandemic is over, he releases something new and hits the road.
And were all these 10 times in Austin, or were they in different
Only
cities?
one of them was in Austin. It was when he was out here at Coda, just before he announced he was performing at the Super Bowl.
Which was the furthest away? What furthest from Austin?
Vegas.
Vegas. Okay.
Wow.
When he was on his 2020 tour, because I was still in school, and the only time he was going to be in Texas for the first. Still, for the dates he had announced anyway, were all on finals days. So
How
I
dare
wasn't
you.
gonna be able to travel.
So
But then on the second go round, I did see him in San Antonio. I've seen him in San Antonio a couple times.
Then you skip school and go to Vegas. That's what you're supposed to do.
No, Vegas was on Thanksgiving break. So
Ah,
I got to
okay,
spend
well.
Thanksgiving with JJ.
Well, that's even better, then you didn't miss school.
Yeah.
Like a good
I was
student.
only 20, so that's all I did in Vegas was see.
Yeah, that's all that goes on in Vegas. At least that's what I hear.
We got a tweet from Hunter Hitt who says he has seen Metallica 9 times. which
Very
is
nice.
pretty formidable. So yeah, gotta like-
Don on Twitter tells us he's seen Bob Marley and the Whalers 2 times, but
Oh,
both
man.
in 2 different continents.
wow.
Talk about traveling for an act.
I would have loved to have seen Bob Marley and the Wailers. Wow. You know, and that's another act that, you know, Elvis died in 77. I would have loved to have seen Elvis. I never saw Elvis. Apparently, he played San Antonio like just months before his death. So he dies August 16th, 1977. Apparently, Elvis was in the Hemisphere Arena in early 1977. So I had a shot, Shannon. I don't know. What was I thinking?
Well, I have some good news for you.
Okay, good.
Still see Elvis.
Whoa.
You can see many versions of him.
That's true. That's a
You
good.
don't have to look too far.
That's good. That's a good point. We will get to sports history, sports birthdays, and the salty shakedown, but I'll say it real quick. There was a thing called Elvis, an American musical or something that was at the Las Vegas Hilton, which is where he used to perform. So they did it on the same stage Elvis used to be on. So you were in this, and they had like each Elvis. They had very young 50s Elvis. They had 60s, 68 comeback special Elvis. They had medium Elvis, and they had like late kind of fat jumpsuit cape Elvis. But they were so good, these Elvis. It was like, man, I am sitting in the same room, and that's the stage Elvis was on. And there's a dude who looks and sounds just like Elvis.
Maybe
So
close your eyes and
yes,
really him.
I allowed myself to just go with the fantasy and believe that was Elvis on stage.
There you go.
I'm a freak. All right. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This day in sports history. I'm going to blow through these so we can get to the salty shakedown. This day in sports history, the Lakers break the NBA record by winning 69 games in a season in 1972. 69 of 82 games. Of course, the Chicago Bulls and the Golden State Warriors would eventually break that record. On this day in 1974, George Foreman, without the grill, a TKO win over Ken Norton in 2 rounds for the heavyweight boxing title. Later that year in Zaire, Ali would get George Foreman. We all know that. And finally, Shannon, this is kind of cool. This day in 1991, it was opening day of the World League of American Football. It was a spring league. The Orlando Thunder beat the San Antonio Riders 35-34, but the San Antonio Riders, Shannon, had some names you've heard of. You know who their quarterback was that day?
No clue.
Jason Garrett, who would go on to the NFL and kind of coach the Cowboys. Do you know who the general manager? There were co-general managers of the San Antonio Riders. You may have heard of them. One was named Tom Landry, and the other general manager was his son, Tom Landry Jr. A lot of people don't know, after Jerry Jones blew out Tom Landry, Landry's final football adventure would be in San Antonio with the San Antonio Riders.
And
So
how
there's
long
that.
did that particular spring league last?
2 years.
There you go.
Lasted 2 years.
Which
But
is pretty long time for a spring league.
Oh, yeah. Commanders, the most recent one here, Commanders lasted half a year.
Yeah.
So, yep. All right. That's sports history. Time for sports birthdays. Born on this day in 1960, a guy who apparently messed around with Nicole Brown Simpson. Luckily, he's still alive. Marcus Allen won the Heisman in 81 from USC. Fight on, Marcus. Born on this day in 1962, John Stockton of the Utah Jazz of the short shorts. He won Olympic gold in 96. And born on this day in 1973, Marshall Faulk, running back Indianapolis Colts, now a commentator on Pro Football. That's the sports birthdays. And now here it is, your daily salty shakedown.
All right. It's going to be pretty football heavy today, as it is a football Friday.
Yes.
Starting things off, you can now get your NFL apparel and gear on Amazon. I know previously it was a lot of odds and ends, but now with their 10-year deal that officially starts in 2023, where I think Amazon paid like $1 billion to get the rights to those Thursday night football games, where people will have to have Amazon Prime in order to watch those games. Unless you live in the area of the featured teams where those teams will then be on your TV, you will need Amazon Prime to watch them. So I guess to get people to go ahead and sign up for Amazon Prime, they've already added a ton of NFL inventory. They actually have an entire page for it where you can then select your team and filter things out that way to start getting your NFL gear. Most of it, yes, is Prime. So that's free shipping for those who have Prime. But I guess they're just trying to already get people signed up so they're ready to go. Chris, we haven't really talked about Amazon getting that contract and the exclusive rights to host these games. I'm pretty happy about it because my family does have Prime, and so I use their Prime all the time. And I don't have NFL Network in my TV package, so whenever they've been on Prime, I've been able to watch them versus when they've been on the NFL Network, I have not. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, this doesn't start till 2023, but your thoughts on Amazon getting into the NFL game?
I love it, and I'm in the same situation that you are. I've got Amazon Prime. I like it a lot. I got my wife and I do so much shopping on Amazon. Years ago, we said we may as well take advantage of Amazon Prime and the free shipping. But yeah, the programming on Amazon Prime is very good. And like you, I don't have NFL Network, but I have enjoyed watching games on Amazon now and then and their programming. So yeah, Amazon is like one of the biggest. They're like Apple. They're one of the biggest corporations on the face of this earth now, and just another feather in the cap of Apple and the greatest. One of the biggest companies in the world aligning with the greatest sports organization in the world, the NFL, kind of sounds like a no-brainer to me.
And when this deal goes into effect, they will have 15 exclusive games streamed on Amazon Prime, as well as a new pre, halftime, and post game shows for your enjoyment. So that'll be interesting to see who they round up to take part in that. All right, moving on to the man, the myth, the sometimes legend, Mr. Johnny Manziel, or Johnny Sprints, as we're calling him today, because he is on a new podcast. I don't really listen to it, but every now and then he says something and he ends up in the headlines. And on his most recent one, he explained that in June of 2012, he was in a bit of a bar fight, if you will, at an Irish bar near College Station. He was arrested for not only the fight, but also having a fake ID. At the time, he was a fourth string quarterback on the team. Well, his punishment for getting arrested by the team was to run sprints and run lots of sprints. And he said that he called it the dumbest shape on the team. Well, that apparently got him into such shape so quickly because 11 days later he was named the starter of the Texas A&M Aggies, and then that season he went on to win the Heisman. So he is now saying that his arrest led to his Heisman Trophy, which I guess you could look at it that way. He says, I got punished and won a Heisman. The bad doesn't always turn out so bad down the line. I don't know if that's the advice you want to be giving people. It happened to work out for you then. He said he did regret that following that Heisman win, he did not do the things he needed to do off the field. He noted that he wasn't named captain or voted captain after that season because he continued to not show up to practice. He wasn't doing the work. He was really just showing up to play games. And because of his natural athleticism, he did pretty well. But just imagine what his life could have been like. He said he thinks he could have even won a second Heisman had he really put in the effort. Your thoughts on his advice and the fact that he claims his arrest led to his Heisman Trophy?
Well, and I think that kind of just shows his flawed thinking, and he probably connected those dots when he won the Heisman, and that led to that other bad behavior where he partied and drank himself out of the NFL and was apparently abusive to his girlfriend. So I just wonder, and you talk about the podcast, and I follow Johnny Manziel on Twitter. It's like a train wreck. I'm interested. If he says something interesting, I wonder, is he ever going to become irrelevant like maybe he should be? Are we ever, 10 years from now, is Johnny Manziel still going to be a thing?
I mean, the Aggies will always hold him in high regard because of that Heisman Trophy win.
Okay. Yeah, it's like Vince Young. Whatever Vince Young does.
He's kind of like the Kardashians now, where he's famous for being famous, and he's famous for making bad decisions.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
He is spending a lot of time with this podcast doing some self-reflection, and it's probably a little therapeutic for him, and hopefully he'll do something. And I don't know what his actual life goals are at this point. One second he doesn't want to play football, and then the next season a fan-driven league, and he's missing games for dental surgery and going out there not really playing to the best of his ability because he's lazy, but who knows? We'll see.
Yep.
Moving on now, the NFL draft. It's going to be here before we know it's going to take place in the end of April. Of course, last year was completely virtual. It was very awkward to watch Roger Goodell stand there for hours on end, just trying to look natural on camera because it is not his natural state. This year, however, the big day will take place in downtown Cleveland. The renderings look pretty awesome. Don't know how many people they're going to allow to run through there, but the NFL did release their rules and regulations for war rooms. Teams need to have those submitted by March 29th, a month out from the official draft day. And great news, if you've been vaccinated, you can have war rooms with up to 10 people. For completely vaccinated, you will not have to wear masks. Social distancing will be relaxed, and you can eat and drink in those war rooms. Now, on the other hand, if you have people who have not been vaccinated, they will have to wear masks. They will have to follow social distancing. But their max is 20 people, which I don't quite understand that.
Yeah,
how
that
that's
sounds
not
weird.
flipped. But at least we're getting to a place where they can actually be in the same room to draft. I remember last year the pictures of Patriots head coach sitting there in his famous cutoff hoodie alone at his kitchen table and his dog jumping on the chair when he would get up to get a snack, I guess. Quite the difference a year makes. I'm excited that it's going to be a little bit more lively. I'm glad we have Tanner Carlson in here every week to give us his update because I think of the draft the same way I think of recruiting. Right, you have all these stars. You did all, but the game changes from the high school level to college level, college level to the NFL level. Prove it to me. Show me what you can do on the field. None of it matters anymore until you step on that field. So I don't take too much to heart if the Cowboys make a sleeper and almost insane pick in a Leighton Vander Esch, because look how he turned out when he did hit the field for the Cowboys. So I'm not super big on the draft, but I am excited for it to be back to being a lively event this year. Chris, are you looking forward to it? They picked Cleveland for some reason.
Well,
I don't know about that part, but it is going to be live.
I am into the draft. I'm probably not into it as much as Tanner, but I love NFL football. I love college football, but I'm always by April. I am so football starved, and just to like have the TV on, even if it's in the background, just to hear football talk. And what I did like last year, you talk about Roger Goodell looking kind of stiff because it was virtual. What I did like was going into the homes of the football players with all of their family when they get the announcement, as opposed to them showing up in Cleveland and sitting there and, walking up and putting the hat on. It gave a little more insight into their home, into their family. And part of what I loved about that was seeing dreams come true, knowing that these kids had been playing football since they were kids, and now their NFL dreams were coming true. And to see them react with mom, with dad, with their sisters on the couch, I just thought it was real cool.
Yeah, those moments as well as fan shots are always the best. Those reactions, I think, are what I enjoy most about the NFL draft. And yeah, I agree with you. I think the family shots and the almost immediate reaction we got compared to them sitting at a table, being nervous, legs shaking, waiting for that phone call. So maybe the part of what was good about last year will be implemented this year. We'll just have to see moving forward. But the NFL draft, we are just over a month away, if you can believe it. And then, of course, be another short pause, but then we'll get back to training. HBO Hard Knocks will premiere. Then we'll have the Steelers, Cowboys.
Yes.
And then the season will occur. And the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl next year. Into the universe right now.
They're due. And that, and again, I'm a delusional freak, and you apparently are too when it comes to the Cowboys. Maybe that's because every time we think they're going to do it, say, oh, this is going to be a great year for the Cowboys. Boom, 8-8, 7-9. Or last year, Dak gets injured. A lot of knowledgeable people last year said the Cowboys were going to go to the Super Bowl, because not just us.
Division, so
yeah,
they very least should be making it into the playoffs.
So maybe the way it happens before I die one more time, and for the first time in Shannon's lifetime, they go to the Super Bowl. Maybe it's going to be one of those years where nobody thinks they're going to do it, and then they catch fire.
Except us.
Yes.
We'll be the ones standing there saying, I knew it all along. Check the tape.
Poor Romo. Romo never got there.
That's all right. He's got lots of money. In fact, Jim Nance is in the headlines today because I guess ESPN was trying to poach him. He's deciding to stay with CBS, but he wants Tony Romo money. And who wouldn't?
Jim Nance, man, the way he does the Masters. And I mean, yeah, and Nance and Romo
He's
are,
iconic.
yeah, they're your marquee dudes for football.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That concludes your Salty Shakedown for the day. James Allen joining us next, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Cowboys talk. Would love his thoughts on that press conference yesterday with Mike McCarthy. What a weirdo.
We will see if he got a look at that.
Stating the obvious, coach speak. That is his game.
Yeah.
That's where he coaches himself up on that one.
We'll talk all things football and more. We'll see if James Allen is locked into the NCAA tournament. Lots to talk about.
Did he make a bracket?
I think he said he did make a bracket.
Going to make a bracket?
Yeah, it was Paul Alexander who was un-American and didn't make a bracket.
Yeah.
But I think James Allen exercised his American duty to do a bracket.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. You're come on. It's like voting. It's your civic duty. Fill out a bracket.
I'm pretty sure that's how they're giving out the stimulus checks right now. If
Yes.
the bracket in 2019, then
More coming up on the Chris Duel Show. Oh, one more hour. Wow. Fred Robert Casares Jr. said he saw Elvis back in 1977 with a very special friend. I was a senior and she was not a classmate. Wink, wink. All right. Not sure what that means, Fred, but I'm glad you saw Elvis. I wish I had.
John, what is Beano?
That's
This is the
true,
last
Fonzie.
stand at Scat.
Beano you take for gas. Beano is
Oh, like a okay.
yeah, if you have stomach issues and gas, you take bean.
Yeah,
you take
it's
it
hard
like
to
before
see.
you eat beans.
But this hat says all gas, no brakes, Longhorn football on it.
All right. Mask on. Whoa, she was an English teacher at a different high school. Wow, Fred. You were in high school and went to see Elvis with an English teacher from another high school. That's impressive. Yeah, Fonzie J. Rodriguez, you brought up, and it could happen. I mean, the Lakers look like they're going to continue to fall until LeBron and Anthony Davis get back. Because they didn't make a big move yesterday. Some people thought they might get a veteran to help them do their thing. So, yeah, I mentioned the prospect of what if you're a 1 seed or a 2 seed and you got to face the Lakers in what is your first round. But you're right. There are going to be that kind of play-in series happening that it looks like, the Spurs may be involved in. But, yeah, imagine if the Lakers are involved. That would be rough. Steve Holt saw 21 Pilots 7 times. That's on Twitter. Styx. I always liked Styx, John. When Dennis DeYoung was the lead singer, 5 times seeing Styx. Very good. James Allen about to join us. Wow, Fonzie's seen Iron Maiden 12 times. Fonzie, that may be the record. Gordon telling us that the Elvis concert at the convention center was April 18th, 1972. Jason won tickets 3 times to see One Republic. I'm not a huge fan, but free is free. That's funny. That's him? Cool, man. Thank you. All right. Oh, my God. Gordon saw Rush 24 times. Gordon, that is the record. We're going to ask James Allen who he has seen the most in concert. It's a fun question. But the leader in the clubhouse, Gordon Weedman, who owns a record store and was and is a rocker himself, 24. Shannon is going to have to get to work on Justin Timberlake. You're going to have to see him 15 more times.
Okay, but how old is he? Because I've only got 28 years so far.
That good point. Gordon's like in his 50s. Say that one more time. Oh, great. Oh, cool. A guest requesting his own walk-up music. I like that. Well, it's Wes. That's so weird. I've heard a lot of people say the second COVID shot has been rough on them, and I hope you feel better. So I was real worried about my mom. She got hers on Tuesday. She's 97. So far, as of last night, I asked her again after the Spurs game. Wow, you're turning 64 this year, Gordon. We got to play When I'm 64 by the Beatles. I'm just saying. Here we go. Woo! Final hour of the weekend, or of the week, leading into the weekend. Coffee hasn't even helped my brain work yet today.
Now, Chris Duel.
The weekend is upon us. Welcome. Enjoy. Watch some great sports this weekend. NCAA tournaments, plural, men and women. Match play, golf in Austin. All kinds of football on YouTube or on Amazon Prime that you can go find. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show. I'm Chris Duel, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. And before we bring in our guest, James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, got to tip my hat. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, I am tipping my cap. Gordon Weidman. We brought up earlier because Dave is wearing a Slayer t-shirt, and he said he saw Slayer 7 times in concert. So we all just were asking one another, what act or band have you seen the most in concert and how many times? For Shannon, it is Justin Timberlake at 10 times, double digits. Very impressive. For me, like Sting, Dan Fogelberg, and the late, great Dan Fogelberg, and even Barry Manilow, somewhere around 6 on those. Gordon Weidman on Facebook Live. And by the way, Gordon is he was a rocker and a rock musician, and he owns a record store. He says he has seen the band Rush 24 times. Shannon, there's your leader in the clubhouse. 24 times. So you have to see Justin Timberlake 10 more times to beat Gordon and Rush.
But he says he's turning 64 this year, so he's more than double my age. Okay, and he's seen double the performances. So
right.
I feel like
You've got time. So as long as
I've started off on the right foot,
you have, as long as you stay alive and Justin Timberlake stays alive for the next 28 plus years, you will shatter that record. You will shatter. Gordon, you're going down, Gordon Weidman. I'm just saying. We love this man, and we love him even more now because he is the first guest to request his own walk-up music, which I think is way cool. There it is. Listen to that.
Yes, jump around.
House of Pain. Very nice. He is on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, one of only 2 Texans on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The other one is some dude named Jerry Jones. This is not Jerry Jones, thankfully. It's James Allen, San Antonio's own James Allen. James, what is going on?
Hey, good morning, Chris. Good morning, Shannon.
I like your music. I like the choice, and I like the fact that you want your own walk-up music. I like that a lot.
Oh, it's just low sleep and not enough coffee kicking in, so thank you.
This is the fourth quarter music for a lot of college football stadiums.
It is, that's right. I love that. Of course, obviously Wisconsin made it real famous.
That's the one.
It is a fourth quarter music for a lot of people.
Texas has been playing it a lot lately. To the
Who's that?
disdain of Wisconsin. Okay. All right. Go
You
ahead.
got to go right to the Longhorns with Aggie.
Nice to Shannon about that, but she won't come across. So I had to give her one shot one time.
That was good. That was good. James Allen with us. James, we will have talking football with you because you played the game on a high level at Texas A&M. You're a dad. Your son plays the game at Churchill High School in San Antonio, and you, on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, have been in the presence of just absolute greatness, the guys who wear the gold jackets. But first, I know you're as a San Antonio guy and a longtime Spurs fan, and I know that you are a big guy in the community. Sad news yesterday as we learn of the passing of Stan Albeck, who was the Spurs head coach from 1980 to 1983, but after traveling all over the basketball world, wound up living in San Antonio and brought his family here, and that's where he passed away yesterday. As his wife Phyllis had passed away years earlier, and he was with his son John yesterday when he left us. Had you had the opportunity to cross paths in your time in San Antonio with Stan Albeck?
Yeah, he is a class act, and I shout out to John and of course his family. He is a class act. Didn't act like he was a head coach of a great team, and I love him to death. You have the colorful people like Doug Moe, and you have different things, and Stan was just very like a Tom Landry. A little bit more excitable, but just very calm, very classy guy. And what a father to have for John. And also, I'm glad that San Antonio has always wrapped their arms around him. And I'm glad that he was here and unfortunately that he passed away.
You said something, and it was so true, James, that he didn't act like he was a big-time NBA coach, and he was. If you Google Stan Albeck and look, he was with the Lakers and Jerry West. He was an assistant coach to Wilt Chamberlain, head coach at a lot of places, including his alma mater, Bradley. But he was so unassuming, he didn't act like he was special, but he was very special. And what I loved about Stan Albeck, James, he always had a smile on his face. He always had a smile, and he always had a warm word and encouragement for people. So, if that's your legacy, that's a pretty darn good legacy.
I hope to have that.
Yeah, I think you've got that. And you certainly have the walk-up music, House of Pains Jump Around. So, you're halfway there. So, it's an ugly story, James, and I brought it up earlier with Paul Alexander just because it's like one of the biggest NFL stories right now. And I know we talked about it with you a week ago, the Deshaun Watson story, and since then, even more women coming forward with allegations. And my big question is, if any of this is true, and I know general managers around the NFL, if any of this is true, because of the unique position that quarterback is in the National Football League, and your fan base wants to look up to your quarterback, you use the quarterback to sell season tickets. If you're a GM and any of this is proven, how are you going to pull the trigger on hiring and signing Deshaun Watson somewhere down the line?
Well, I think there still will be general managers doing that, but they're going to wait on Commissioner Goodell because I don't care if you're a business executive here in town or an NFL football player, whatever. People make mistakes, people do things, and I don't know what's true or not true. But at the end of the day, general managers are there to, unfortunately, unless you're with the Steelers or the old Patriots, like that, chemistry is key along with talent. But sometimes you just need talent. And it really comes down to the commissioner's what he does, because you can't draft somebody, pay him a ton of money if they can't play a year. So I do believe, depending on the severity of the charges, both from out of Houston and from the district attorney and the commissioner, but if you're strictly talking general managers, they're going to see first, what are my cards here? They're going to do stuff that you think, I'm really sorry, how severe is this, etc. But at the end of the day, can the guy play? Is the guy going to play the 3 games a season? etc. And then they're going to go into character analysis and look at the legal thing. So everybody's just going to have to hold the pause button. There's a lot of general managers out that are desperate and they have to make decisions. They're forced to make decisions. However, until the commissioner says how long this person can or cannot play, which is, by the way, and I'm not going to tell on commissioner too much, I can assure you back in the Ray Rice thing, when he finally had to get involved, he didn't want to get involved. But the brand and the sponsors demanded him. So yes, Commissioner Goodell is not the legal system that will hopefully protect victims. However, from a purely football standpoint, the general managers are going to hold on and to see what the commissioner says. And then obviously, there's a lot of people, I can assure you, down at the Attorney General in Houston, with their ear to the ground, find out what's the other side of the ledger. So first they got to see what's going to happen and everything else. Can the guy play football ever? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 games? And then they're going to look at the legal situation. But I'm sad, if he did a lot of things and he does serve jail time or does not serve jail time will be the other factor. If he doesn't serve jail time, he's going to find a job. But he's going to have the morality clauses and all the other stuff in his contract. So.
Well, you mentioned Goodell making decisions, and now I've got it in my mind. There's so many women that have come forth, and potentially even more for more cases. This could potentially drag out for a while. Would it be possible for the NFL to get involved as far as saying you're suspended or you can't play until all the legal stuff is worked out?
That's so true. A commissioner he's always wanted to wait for the legal system. However, he can't just hold up someone's career. And remember, these guys, and people forget about that. So he's battling the union and everything else. That's a tough question. Although I don't want to give away something, but I have a very good friend in the district attorney's office, and it's not looking good.
Ooh.
And at least there's always evidence that's more substantial, not substantial, but there is at least one case that does not look good at all. Now, that may be probation, it may be 3 months in jail. I don't know. I didn't ask that question. It happened to be on a different kind of phone call for my foundation. But anyway, so let's see what happens. But that's a good question, Shannon. He's always he wants to let the legal system do it. He did that with the Ray Rice, but the union and everybody else forces him to say something. So he's taken very hard stances.
James Allen joins us from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We love talking all things football with him. And James, earlier in the show, it came up, the NFL draft is next month and April will be upon us in just a few days. It's March 26th on this Friday. Shannon's not that excited, or she watches it, but she's not locked into the NFL draft. We've got another guy who's even more so than me, who is already doing his own mock drafts. Tanner Carlson is like a draft Nick. He lives for the draft. I'm like right either in the middle, or I lean toward really, because I'm so starved for NFL football by the time April rolls around, just to be talking football, just to hear the commentators talking about NFL teams and their needs and who they might be drafting. Plus, I love seeing these young men have their dreams come true, and I love seeing them. Probably the same thing you feel when you see a guy inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I love seeing a guy who's been playing football all his life, like your son, played high school football, then goes to college, and then he's very, very good at college, and here he is. He grew up watching the NFL. Now he's in. He's going to go play NFL football. So I love that human standpoint. What about you? I mean, obviously, you've been associated with football on all levels. Is the NFL draft something that gives you juice?
I'm not because I think a lot of it's over-analysis of somebody who hasn't even put their foot in the door. And remember, I don't care how good you are. So what team you get on? And, there's a lot of factors. So I'm more about the pageantry and even more, my biggest thing, Chris, is the human element. Growing up poor, growing up this, doing that, some of the things they had to overcome. Now, that's what I liked about the draft and the stories. And candidly, I read about those ahead of time, and then afterwards, much like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you see guys, the toughest guys in the world, literally, almost collapse. And I like the pageantry, and I love the human element. The human element's my favorite in all aspects, whether it's in business or in sports. So yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I don't watch it, and sit there and go, okay, who's the Packers going to pick? And Lord knows, growing up as a Cowboys fan, I don't even want to talk about that aspect of it. But I do love the stories, and I love everything that goes on with them. So that's I usually read about that before and afterwards. I'm really just kind of seeing, what team they go on and how it fits and how they make the jigsaw puzzle work. I am into that, but you really can't talk about that until you know where they're going to go. So I don't get excited about where someone's going to go yet.
See, I'm the same way, James. I'll prove it to me on the field before I decide whether you were a good choice or not for that particular team. Now,
a lot of times the player is great, and they're just in the wrong scheme,
right,
the wrong coach, and the wrong talent.
And
I agree.
We've seen that with a lot of Texas players recently, where they don't. We've suffered in the draft. People haven't been getting drafted high, and then they go like Malcolm Roach, gets signed as a free agent to the Saints and plays really well on that defensive side of the ball and impresses. It's all about scheme and system and coaching, and he found himself in a great spot, and that doesn't happen for every player. But another Texas player I do want to talk about is Mr. Colt McCoy. Cowboys fans have said and voiced this in the past, even before he was with the Redskins, before he was with the Giants, that they would like to see him in a Cowboys uniform as a backup. But we hear that next week he is going to the Arizona Cardinals to possibly become Kyler Murray's backup. Of course, JJ Watt is now there along with Deshaun Watson. I mean, is this team the Brooklyn Nets of the NFL right now?
I love that analogy. I like your Kardashian with the Aggie thing earlier. I actually agree with that. Yes, they are the Brooklyn Nets of the NFL, and I hope Colt. I had Colt come do a speech years ago. Thanks to, and I got a lot of UT. I got Josh Davis, the Hall of Famer swimmer, two-time Olympian, and Red McCombs helping get people together. And of course, Colt's dad is a big-time football high school coach and great guy, hyper smart. And, I'm sorry as I go to the Cowboys because he's so intelligent and he knows schemes and defenses, but I'm glad that he's still getting an opportunity.
James Allen with us talking football. James, and you were apparently listening earlier when Shannon compared Johnny Manziel to the Kardashians. You, sir, are a huge Aggie alum. From your perspective, I mean, you look at Johnny Manziel, and obviously when we think Johnny Manziel, part of what we think about is Heisman Trophy at Texas A&M. I mean, when you see him showing up in the media for good or for bad as an Aggie alum, do you go, yeah, Johnny Manziel? I mean, is this a guy? And Shannon said, and to me, it's almost like my comparison, Vince Young, and obviously Vince Young's occasionally is. There's been some negative stories about him occasionally, not always, more positive than negative. But because Vince Young delivered that national championship to the Longhorns, he will forever be beloved, I believe, by Longhorn Nation. Will Manziel, and is Manziel always beloved by guys like you who are Aggie alums and in your case, a former football player?
Yeah, I'm more of a character person and everything else. But at the end of the day, I know one thing that people forget. Now, fans is short for fanatics. And I know when you're a fanatic of anything, sometimes it's not rational. But the bottom line, Vince Young and Johnny Manziel deserve to be revered by Longhorns and Aggies for the rest of their time because of their body of work on the field. But Vince Young was a man amongst boys in that game at USC. No offense to your team. And Johnny Manziel, and when he did Alabama, was a man amongst boys there. So that's what you have to remember. There are radio announcers. There's different people, different fields that are great at what they do. Off the field, they're jerks, and they're this or that. I always look at what their job is, what they're paid to do, and what that is, and their body of work. So yes, Vince Young and Johnny Manziel will always, I think, and deservedly should be revered for what they did on their body of work at that time.
I can't argue with that. That makes absolute sense, and I get that. So very, very cool. Brackets. Are you following the NCAA tournament? Are you excited? Did Sister Jean destroy your bracket like she destroyed mine?
Well, there were several, right? I mean, Loyola was, and I love that though, and I hate that for the other teams, but look at Abilene Christian. I mean, yeah, that's what's about the pageantry. It's a one game. Anybody can win. It doesn't matter if you're one of the elite teams, and and Oral Roberts. I love it. Yeah, of course, I got killed on all those, and of course, my big picks are all still in there, but. Yeah, it's been great, and I love those upsets. I feel sorry for the other teams because I've actually coached some teams that got beat by a buzzer beater, and sometimes it still lives with you. I've had one game still lives with me, and George Durbin happened to be watching it. That was even more pressure, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, that happens. But yeah, and I'm glad that Baylor's still riding high. That's exciting. I'm always good for Texas teams. First and foremost. So yeah, it's been a great tournament.
James Allen with us. James, you mentioned Abilene Christian, and I know you mentioned Red McCombs, and I don't want you to be specific because you don't want to violate any trust. But I mean, you have friends in high places. So my question to you is this: when an Abilene Christian beats a University of Texas in basketball when it had no business doing so, your big time donors, are they so mad in a situation like that they get on the phone and call DeLoss Dodds and say, hey man, I'm giving a lot of money to this university, something has to be done? I mean, can something like that, a single game, really rile up donors in such a way that they can maybe move the needle?
Well, as you know, DeLoss is not there anymore, but yeah, I get the analogy. No, I don't mean this to bifurcate this, but basketball is not football in some ways, from a revenue standpoint and a perception, at least for down in this part of town. Now, if you're over there on the East Coast, I get it. But even on the East Coast, now one game, I mean, look at Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart got the job because of what he did with not a very good team in the tournament, remember?
Yep.
So it's really more of a positive thing, but Shaka had a great season. So everyone knows this is a one-game thing, and that's the difference. So even if basketball is your premier thing in your school, no, you don't see that happening because it's a one-game thing. It's not a season. Now, obviously, you're not going to get this thing if you have a 16-16 or 14-14 season. You're not going to get in the tournament. But if you get in the tournament, that is, you did your job. So that's really how that works. And no, it's not. That does not happen because you made the tournament. You had a great season. That's what I love about the tournament. It kind of helps 60-some teams just for keeps you saying, hey, you did great. And and you go to schools like Oral Roberts and stuff like that, and Winthrop and all these St. Bonavere and all these people. And they go, hey, you made the tournament. Great job, coach. It can't just be about the top teams. And I love, Shaka Smart. I'm a big fan of him. And Shaka Smart got famous because of the tournament.
Good points.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, the Jimmy V, who did a lot of things, who struggled in that league and everything else, got famous for one stretch. And really, to this day, has an impact on the game. So, no, it's not like that.
And that is a huge point for people who remember Jim Valvano leading North Carolina State. I mean, he went on a run and became a national phenomenon. Then he had the health tragedy and is now revered after he has passed and continues in his name. So much money is raised for research. It's amazing. You're right. What this tournament can do. James Allen, always fun, sir. We love talking all kinds of sports with you. And you mentioned, I want to talk about it next time you come on. We haven't talked about it yet. In passing, you mentioned your foundation. I'm a big believer in using your platform for good. So next time we bring you on board, we'll talk about your foundation, among other things. Thanks so much for taking the time, James. We'll talk with you next week.
And DeMarcus Ware, we got to talk about him next time because he's up next year for the Hall of Fame voting.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
We'll talk about DeMarcus Ware next time because he's going to get in the Hall of Fame, and it's just a matter of when. And so he comes up next year, and we can talk about those kind of things. And I'd like to get Drew on. I actually could probably get a occasional Hall of Famer on sometime. We could do that. And I'll leave you guys. I got y'all tickets for all the stuff. Waiting on to hear from you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the entry music to my new guy there. And thank you, Shannon. Thanks, Chris. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. You'll definitely hear from us. Thanks so much, James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Quick break. Final segment coming up. We will scour the wires, which nobody does anymore. We'll scour the internet, see what's happening. If there's anything breaking, you have to know right now in the world of sports. Otherwise, we'll just mock Dave Ayler's T-shirt or something coming up. We're with you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. Jason,
Chris.
that's a great idea. Go ahead.
Dave has a clip of Joe Flacco yesterday, basically saying again he's not there to mentor anybody.
Oh, good, yeah.
We can play that. And then someone just came in and gave me this sheet. All the Garys of the NBA were traded yesterday.
Say that again.
Everybody named Gary was traded in the NBA yesterday.
That's crazy. That's funny. So we're gonna run that Flacco audio, Dave. Do you have that?
Yeah, and it's a minute, Chris.
Okay.
Because I know we've only got 10 minutes now in this next segment.
Yeah. So Jason and Louisa, that is a really good idea. We might Shannon walk James Allen through on StreamYard and see if he wants to. Now, how would that work with his phone, though? So yeah, if he'd need us, if he's calling us.
Best, like if he could use his laptop for StreamYard and then just call us on his phone and mute himself on StreamYard. I
will try to work that out for next week because yeah, he's such a fun character. I hope he didn't, because I asked him. I was in the middle of the Spurs game. All right, he didn't bring up Deshaun or DeMarcus Ware. So I was texting him yesterday. He said, "Yeah, what do you guys want to talk about?" And I said, "Well, this, and this, and anything you want to talk about that's on your radar, we'll talk about that as well." And I was in the middle of the Spurs game, and I thought, "Oh God," because did he say DeMarcus Ware? And then I just totally missed it. So luckily he didn't. Yeah, let's see. John Williams, you said happy birthday, Diana Ross. I was running late, but I did notice it was Diana Ross's birthday, Steven Tyler, and Nancy Pelosi, and James Caan, who played Brian Piccolo in Brian's song. So yeah, Louisa and Jason, we'll try to work that out. We'll try to see if we can get James Allen on video. Okay. Joe Flacco has 5 kids, not nearly into Phillip Rivers territory, but I think 5 kids in 2021 seems like that is substantial. I am the 5th of 5 kids. It was a Catholic family. Obviously, my parents did not practice birth control. Thank goodness, or I wouldn't be here. So I guess I should thank the Catholic Church for their rules that my parents adhered to in the 1960s. Yeah, Shannon Louisa is requesting that you bring up the Garys who got traded yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's funny. I like that. Wow, Woj just tweeted the final tally on NBA trade deadline yesterday. 16 trades involving 23 teams, including 46 roster players. That is the most ever in each category in the past 35 years on trading deadline day. That's amazing. And the Spurs get Marquise Chris, and he's injured and can't play. That's all right. He was a teammate of DeJounte Murray, though. That's interesting. Welcome back to the Chris Duel Show. Shout out to the man behind the music, the man with the Slayer t-shirt, Dave Ayler. Great job today and all week. Slayer, Lamb of God, Anthrax, and others on his t-shirt. Shannon Salty Sweeney on board. We'll talk a little bit about Joe Fluco in a moment. But I just saw a tweet from Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski. This is a Woj, not a Woj bomb, kind of a Woj pellet. A Woj pellet. That sounds a little sick. He writes, the final tally of yesterday's NBA trade deadline day included 16 trades involving 23 teams, involving 46 roster players, all yesterday. That's the most ever in each category in the past 35 years on NBA trade deadline day. So a lot of activity, a lot of movement yesterday in the NBA.
Yes, including if your name was Gary, because all three Garys in the league were traded yesterday. Gary Trent Jr. of the Portland Trail Blazers was traded to the Toronto Raptors. Gary Harris of the Denver Nuggets was traded to the Orlando Magic. And the Nuggets got a Gary back in the same deal. Gary Clark is now heading from the Magic to the Nuggets. So
see, I'm amazed there's only 3 Garys in the NBA. Gary Payton comes to mind back in the day, but that's apparently wasn't a popular name 25 years ago.
Was there anything yesterday, though, that was like, I don't know, a big headline out of the trades?
Nikola Vucevic was like the biggest name, I thought, going from Orlando to Chicago. But yeah, they were all, it's like, for example, the Spurs do a deal with the Golden State Warriors, and the Spurs acquired Marquise Chris. He's 24. He's injured. He's out for the year. And he's even a free agent next year. That was weird. It's like, all right, we'll have him in so he can get to know Pop. Maybe that makes sense. But what's interesting about Marquise Chris, he was DeJounte Murray's teammate at Washington. So maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
And then you have Victor Oladipo going over to, I believe, the Heat from the Rockets. The Rockets just having a fire sale at this point.
Well, and
in general, just
There was one more interesting thing. Gary Payton wound up going to the LA Clippers, and apparently in the
Sorry, you said Gary?
what did I say? Rajon Rondo. Gary Payton's on my.
You're talking about
Gary Payton retired.
Like
in-
another Gary.
No. I called Chris Del Conte the Lost Dodds earlier in my.
I thought, yeah, I was.
Yeah, it's called 2 nights in a row of a Spurs game and a total of 4 hours of sleep in the last 2 nights. Right. So no, Rajon Rondo wound up going to the LA Clippers in a trade. So in the post game yesterday, Terrence Mann, who plays for the Clippers, was talking to the media, and he pulled out his wallet, and he has a Rajon Rondo basketball card that he said he has carried around in his wallet for like the last 15 years since he was a kid. So, because he always wanted to like play like Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool that he's now coming to his team, and that he was like at the game at the AT&T Center last night with that basketball card in his wallet.
Well, and Rondo, when he was with the Celtics, he looked like he was the guy who was going to be a Celtic for the long haul. And now I don't even know how many teams he's been on.
Yeah.
At this point. I mean, the Kings, the Mavs, the Lakers, now the Clippers. I'm sure there's some that I'm missing in there.
Yeah. Kind of like Rondo rhymes with Flacco. You've been talking about Mr. Joe Flacco this week.
Yeah, he's headed to the Eagles. He has officially signed to what I thought to be their backup quarterback. But as we know from his time in Denver, where he said, "I'm not here to mentor," he's kind of saying with the Eagles now with those same sentiments when we heard from him yesterday.
Like I said, I really was going to come in. Your goal as a football player is always to show people, around you that you can play football. And I don't care what level of playing that is, whether you're the first string, second string, third string guy on the team.
Good, Jason.
You want to prove to everybody on the football team that you can play football and that you deserve a spot on this team in some capacity. And that's really what my job is. Once I meet the guys and get, dive into this offense, it's going out in the field and proving to everybody that I'm not just some old guy that's been around the league and, is coming to a new team. My job is to prove to these guys that, I deserve some respect and I can play this game at a high level. And that's really what I mean by being competitive and competing. It's just showing guys that, I know how to do this and I'm going to show you that I know how to do this. You don't have to look at what I've done in the past or, in a positive way or negative way. Just take it for what it is, what you see today, and that's what I'm going to do.
Joe Flacco, you are there to be an achieved quarterback, and you don't have to use the word mentor, but you are there to lend a hand in helping Jalen Hurts develop, because you are not Mr. Super Bowl winning quarterback anymore. If you were so good, you'd still be with Denver, because it's not like they have anybody right now who's better than you.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, that you're the same, but your attitude, yes, come in and compete. We want you to play your hardest every day, because that's what you should be doing as a professional athlete. But get over yourself. Get over yourself. No one even liked you when you were winning a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco?
Flacco, that's perfect. Joe Flacco.
He's starting to every time he opens his mouth.
Well, now we can really hate him because he's an Eagle. So it's like
Yes,
he kind of rubbed us the wrong way. It's like, okay, now we can sports hate him.
Yes, Eagles, start him. Play him. Because you know what? That's probably better for me. He's a jerk. I feel bad for Jalen Hurts.
Well, and again, it's happened throughout history in the National Football League and in all sports. When you're kind of an older player, if you're a good teammate, if you're a team, you do. Granted, yes, you want to start, so you're going to compete and try to get the job. But and Ryan Fitzpatrick knew this at Miami a year ago.
Incredible attitude.
When you bring in the high draft pick young guy, if you're a good human being, you help him out. You mentor him. You show him how to be a better player.
That man was almost in tears when his starting position midway through the season was taken away and the reins handed over to Tua. But he said, "I will be here to support him and to help him in any way that I can." I'm gut wrenched because I felt like it was my team. But was still part of the team, and so still did his duties. I don't know how. I mean, I guess the Eagles being the Eagles, they didn't care that Joe Flacco has said these things in the past and doesn't care about being a good teammate. So that kind of fits the bill there. But anywhere else, I mean, that's probably why Baltimore was like, no thanks, Lamar's our guy. If you're not gonna be helpful, then we'll do without you, and bring in Mr. 10 of the Baylor Bears. As whatever. I don't even know where he is now. Do we know where RG is now?
Gosh, where is RG3?
Rolling around.
It's a good question. I
don't think they re-signed him.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But
that's why God created Google. I'll Google that after the show.
Attitude is everything, and Joe Flacco has a bad one.
Yeah, and we'll see how that works out. So, all right, we embark upon the weekend. Dave Ayler in the Slayer shirt and big weekend plans. What's on tap for your weekend?
I think I'm just going to be watching basketball. I'm going to find a good spot on the couch and not move.
Yes, absolutely. Shannon, you may or may not. You kind of got you saw all you needed to see at match play yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll head out there again today or maybe sometime this weekend. I am scheduled for margaritas tonight.
Yes.
Finally. I mean, we have 5 days in the regular week. We're coming in hot last minute, but it's happening, so I'm excited for that. I did though have a margarita. I did venture out last night. It just wasn't with the person who I was originally supposed to get marks with. They called in the middle of that margarita, and I was like, I am not drinking margaritas without you. That's not what's happening. So margaritas will be consumed. Basketball as well as Dell match play will be on the TV. I'll have to go to my parents' house to watch that though, because it is on the Golf Network most of the time. But excited for this weekend. It should be good. Easter's coming up soon, and
That's right.
Probably going to be hosting some family at my place, so I'll probably have to do a little bit of cleaning. It's spider season already. I got 2 this morning. They scare the crap out of me. I don't like it. I need an exterminator or whatever they're called, the people that come out and do, I guess, yearly visits.
Mm-hmm.
Because I live alone. I do not want to be dealing with these creatures.
Yeah, that's not good. We have a poll question. Dave says I'm going to be watching. I'm going to try to dip into most tournament games, men's and women. And of course, the big one for me, Sunday night, USC Oregon. We'll try to see if USC can punch its ticket to the Elite Eight, and waiting for them there almost certainly will be Gonzaga. Winner of USC Oregon gets Gonzaga. Good luck with that. How's our poll question shaping up?
Yeah, asking how many games people will watch this weekend for March Madness. Most people still saying some of them, followed by none of them. Wow, people maybe it must be Texas fans who are bitter taste in their mouth, followed by most of them with 20%. That's my take. I'll be watching as much as I can. Obviously, 8 o'clock Sunday night, the Texas women taking on number 2 Maryland. And I don't know, maybe this weekend there'll be some more news in the way of Shaka Smart. There's rumor that he may just be taking a job at Marquette before he could even get fired at Texas. We'll see if that becomes true. I don't know. I still am under the belief that Texas is going to rid themselves of Mr. Smart, but first they want to have someone in place so they can swiftly act in. He's gone, but he's in. Let's move forward.
So Shaka Smart may pull you're not going to fire me. I quit.
Yeah. But that also, going to Marquette, yes, good school, but I mean, it's not Texas, right?
No.
That is not a lateral move.
No, that's a step down.
If there's any mic that needs to be dropped on his end. I think it's just a faster, I don't know, but I don't know what kind of market people see him as for any other openings. So I guess go where you can get it.
Yeah, and I mean, if he sees the writing on the wall, if he knows the axe is going to fall at Texas, I mean, now he's got to do damage control. He's got to go somewhere and rebuild his reputation, because I imagine as a coach, he hopes to be at a big time school like a Texas or a blue blood school. Someday Coach K will have to step away from Duke. So who knows? I wish him the best, though, and I like him. I'm a fan. I like Shaka Smart. I like his vibe. I like his energy. I wish, and if it still can work out at Texas, I would like to see that.
He's a good person. He's just not the right person for this Texas job.
On that note, we will proceed upon the weekend. Shannon, enjoy your margaritas.
Thank you, sir.
Your basketball and golf viewing.
Very much looking forward to it.
Dave, enjoy the couch and the basketball.
I'm going to love it.
Woo! Our thanks to Coach A, Paul Alexander, James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Have a safe weekend. Wear your mask. It's just the right thing to do. Be good to one another. We will see you on Monday. Adios, muchachos. See y'all later.